Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Squarespace.
This is legitimately one of the worst Daytonas I've ever seen in my life, and everyone's kissing its ass, and I don't know why, and I think that you've all perjured yourselves, okay?
What's up, everybody? I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and I am back with another episode of our Watches and Wonders recap. And today we are back with Rolex. We have done Cartier, we did Rolex before, we have done Tudor, talking about a lot of different interesting things, IWC and their Ingenieur, but we are back with the Crown today because they just released so many new things. When Rolex does Watches and Wonders, it's just a flurry. It's just so much. A lot of it's kind of shit, right? And I think that's kind of where I want to start with this, right? This Daytona, which is the first watch that I'm going to talk about today, I think is really awful. Now, I know that design and like color is very subjective. You can love it. God bless you. Literally a zero stakes game. So buy whatever you want. I don't give a shit. You don't have to like my watches. I don't have to like yours. I don't think that I'm wrong, and I think that there is a such thing. I don't understand it, but I do think there's a such thing as like just color theory, and like there's a science behind why things look good, and there's science of contrast and just things. Some of us, like myself, I feel, if I may fancy myself so inclined, to have a sense for like what is balanced and what is pretty and harmonious and then what is not. I've been doing this for a really long time. Like my mental muscles for like finding faults or finding beauty in watches and design, particularly watches, it's a very like strong muscle of mine. I'm doing it for 10 years, right? This does not work. And ladies and gentlemen, put this watch beside its better brothers and sisters. Put it beside a John Mayer Daytona. Put it beside a Beach Daytona. These watches, while very different, right now they're all Daytonas, obviously. Put it beside a platinum Daytona with a chocolate bezel and ice blue dial, right? All of these Daytonas, the other three, have something in common. They have a lack of contrast in the dial. The dials themselves are so bold. Like the color, the canvas, the color of the canvas is so bold that it is not so rudely interrupted by these really brutal contrast subdials, right? The black does something to the turquoise here, doesn't it? Am I crazy? I just don't think that this is appealing. Even in the platinum Daytona with the chocolate bezel, yes, you do have subdials, right? You have these subdials. But Rolex understood then, not just in platinum, but in all their metals, that if they're going to have that contrast, it has to be really delicate. It's thinner. It's not these two big black owl eyes right in the middle of what is otherwise a already bold watch. The word to describe this design for me is abrupt. I think that everything about it is abrupt. The black strap with the black bezel with the black subdials is abrupt beside the turquoise and yellow, not to mention all the instrumentation. It's abrupt. I'm not excited about this. I'm not upset about this. God bless. Get it. If you get an allocation, God bless you. I wish you nothing but health and wealth. Mwah. I don't like it though. And I think that I have a YouTube channel and I can say that, right? I mean, what's Rolex going to do? Not give me an allocation? Too late. Okay. Too fucking late. Okay. Next watch I want to talk about is the 1908, which I think is really interesting. First thing I'll say, I was there when the 1908 was released in 2013. I was there. It was cool. It was cool. You know what it was? You know what the 1908 was? The 1908 was the most pompous, just snotty thing to walk around and say that you enjoyed. It was like, everyone was talking about X, Y, and Z, but I really think the 1908 was a real sleeper hit that no one's thought. Shut up. Shut up. It was such a... You put people in a room with information and they're going to find a way to be snotty, and that was it. And I think the 1908 was actually the benefactor of a lot of undue praise. I don't think the 1908 was really better in any way than its competing watches. I don't think it's better than Lange's 1815 or Saxonia. I don't think it's better than Patek Philippe's Calatrava, which at the time wasn't even new and improved. I don't think it's better than Vacheron's Patrimony. On what metric, on what level was this watch better or more interesting? Anything. Oh, what level? There was no level on which it was better. I will go so far as to say, I don't even think it was a real improvement from previous iterations of what has now been discontinued and renamed from the Cholini. I think the Cholini Moon Phase, which is a watch that always traded under retail, was amazing. That was a beautiful watch. Now, I understand that when someone dreams of their Rolex, they don't dream of a 1908 or a Cholini. You don't dream of a Cholini moon phase. But I think the production quantities also reflect that, and it's a part of the collection. It's been there for a long time, and it's not the flagship, but it's something, and it deserves to exist. And people will buy it, just not this many people, just not a Daytona amount of people. But that's dress watches as a whole, right? I mean, it's the same thing in clothing. Formal wear has a much smaller line and much smaller audience than casual wear. This is how it is. Same thing in watches. Formal watches, leather strap like this, unless you're a brand like Patek Philippe, who has just prided themselves forever, and not to mention has a much smaller, production quantity, talking about 60 to 80,000 watches a year. Rolex is doing, is it 2 million? That used to be 1 million, then everyone kind of just said that it was 1.5 million. I have no idea. I have no idea. So the quantities are all different. I understand why the Cholini always did, get swept under the rug, okay? I understand why they wanted to get that off the books, because it was looked at as maybe a little bit of a failure, and failure at Rolex is unacceptable, so they had to get it off the books. I get that. But I don't think the 1908 was any better. I don't think it solved anything. I will say, I will give my praise where it's due. I think the Platinum 1908 was fabulous. I think the dial was fabulous. I don't really care for the hands, but neither here nor there. The dial was fabulous. Everything about that watch was really, really nice. Still didn't see a single one in the wild. Still never saw one on Instagram, and I spend hours on it. I never saw one on Instagram. Someone posting, got my new 1908 today. No, you didn't. No one did. Someone did. Who knows where? And I'd be interested to know, out of the 1908s that were sold, how many are ever even worn? How many are ever even worn? Or were those watches just stepping stone watches to get people into Daytonas and other watches? Hey, we know that we're having a hard time selling this $30,000 time-only watch that nobody wants. But if we make somebody buy it and then give them a Sky Dweller, maybe we have a deal. At least when someone, and I think this is wrong, at least when someone makes you buy a diamond bracelet, at least you give it to your wife. I mean, at least you get some fucking credit. 1908 just collects dust in the box. Not for me. I'm not rich enough to just have watches that just collect, actually, I do have a lot of watches that just sit in the bank, don't I? Ooh, God, how old I've become. How old and callous and horrible. But my watches that I do have, that I don't wear as often as I should, one, I aim to wear them more often than I do, and two, they weren't purchased as like bribery. They're watches that maybe if I fall out of favor because I bought something that I liked a little bit better, or life changes, seasons change. I mean, I'm not defending myself completely. I know that it's still wrong to not wear a watch, I think. So I am involved in that indictment. But it just doesn't feel so much dirtier when you're forced to, when you spent $30,000 on something that you just didn't even want to begin with, and then it just goes in a box? Not for me. Now, what would be better? Because I don't want to just be all critical. What would be better? I gave compliment to the Platinum. What would I give compliment to the moon phase? I'm not just being all cynical here, guys. I'm not getting credit for being the nasty reviewer because no one else is able to be. And frankly, they're not able to be because they're all at the teat. They are Remus and Romulus, except they will not build Rome, they will build nothing. That's how I feel. People who can't criticize watch brands. It's really sad. It's my Trump impression. It's really sad. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Squarespace. Had it not been for Squarespace, I certainly wouldn't be here. We started trusting Squarespace as our web design development partner about 10 years ago. And since, they have been just that, the best partner in the game. From their template system, which allows you to pick between a whole just world of options of design and taste and functionality, from shops and blogs to portfolios, etc. It's an unbelievable system. Then on the development side, from their SEO tools to their fluid engine system, which allows you to drag and drop different elements from all over the site, it's unbelievable. Now there's invoicing, which they didn't have when I started 10 years ago, and all these flexible payment systems. It's unbelievable. Right? Squarespace never ceases to expand their capabilities and the ways in which they help their partners. So if you're not already trusting Squarespace, I highly recommend you do. So head on over to squarespace.com and use the code Theo Harris for 10% off your first website or domain. The name 1908 is nowhere nearly as offensive as the name Land Dweller, for God's sake. Someone commented on the YouTube video about the Land Dweller that it sounds like a pirate's insult. Fabulous. Very funny, super weird name, awful. 1908 I don't love, but it's not offensive. It doesn't remind me of anything that's offensive, or like, ugh, it doesn't give me a negative physical reaction like Land Dweller. But I don't like it. I don't like it. Cholini has history. Rolex's Cholini line dates to the 1960s, and it was a marvel of the era. The Cholini collection was the most expensive Rolex facet of the Rolex catalog. Most expensive category. The Midas, which kind of gave birth to the whole Cholini catalog, was a stroke of brilliance. They are beautiful watches, bizarre. They're beautiful watches, a brother to Piaget Polo or to a whole host of other, watches of the era from all different sorts of brands. Patek Philippe made watches like this, their Ellipse, right? All different sorts of watches. That was the era. It was the era. It's the Elvis era, right? It was, whatever. That was the era. And I do think that assuming the Cholini is not something that is mass market currently, or it's actually defunct, but 1908 is mass market. It's not meaningful to the bottom line. I think that it could serve the brand and the brand's identity culturally better. There's a better use for that space in the catalog. And I think that better use is found if we go back into a history book. And if we go look at the weird designs, the materials, the bizarre, very stylistic designs of the 1960s and 70s. Again, super low production. They wouldn't even be in a Rolex boutique. They could be off catalog. They could be whispered about. Maybe it's only for women even. I think that would be super cool. And this does exist, right? Rolex has done this with what they called their Pearl Master, I believe, right? Seldom seen, super expensive, kind of ugly, I think, but like sought after because it is the best. I'll go even a step further. I think the Cholini is more of a departure from the rest of the Rolex catalog, unlike the Pearl Master, and would even be, because of how divergent it is, because of how much of a leap it is and how differentiated it is, I think it'd be the subject of even more collectability. I could absolutely see a bunch of my lovingly beautiful asshole friends send the picture of the Cholini to their wife, being like, "Do you like this? Oh, we were offered one." What a jerk! It's like the funniest, it's so ridiculous. It's so pre-apocalypse. I can't even, right? It's so pre-doomsday, but it's true. And the women, I could see so many women, some of my friends' wives, being like, "Oh, it's kind of weird. Is it ugly or is it cool? Because I kind of like it." Like, no. Like, it's really, really cool. Trust me, this is really, really cool. Done. And they can be produced in such low quantities because it doesn't matter to the bottom line, right? It's not like they're throwing out their Datejust or their OP or their Submariner or their freaking Daytona or Skydweller. No, 1908 is a throwaway anyway, isn't it? Isn't it? Right? Who the f is buying them? And if the new Cholini, if the revived Cholini wasn't a mass market success, if I'm wrong about how it would be adopted, it would be the same vehicle or whatever for extortion that the 1908 is. You gotta buy it. You gotta buy it from a Daytona, and the people would. The people would go crazy. They get online to give you their money for this ugly Cholini, the same way they would the 1908, and I think it would actually do better. Furthermore, 5-8 years ago, this recommendation would be unheard of. This would be bizarre because Rolex doesn't look back into the catalog. Rolex doesn't create what they used to. They create modern versions of some of their collections. Sure, Day-Date looks very similar to, but Rolex doesn't make a red sub. Rolex doesn't make all these, Paul Newman. Now they have the Le Mans. They had the Sea Dweller, right? Or the Sea Dweller with the red print. Right? Rolex does look back now. Even their Daytonas. Total back in time, modern approach. Totally back in time stylistically. So Rolex does do this, and they could again. They clearly just did it with their Land Dweller. They clearly just did it though. That's an oyster quartz. It's just an uglier oyster quartz. It's kind of all it is. Just an uglier oyster quartz, right? And again, just to be clear, I think that the Land Dweller with a new dial someday in the 36mm size will be beautiful, fabulous watch. I think it's the kind of watch that, a rich guy would get his son for his college graduation or law school graduation, right? It's a great, cool watch. I can see a son or a daughter preferring that to the Datejust because it's more angular and industrial and tough. I get it. But the rest of it, keep it. So that's my thoughts on the Cholini, that this 1908 nonsense is ridiculous. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even talk about the new model. New model is on a yellow gold bracelet. I love yellow gold bracelets. I love it. Who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy it? Who cares? Who cares? I don't know. I'm sorry. I just don't really care. I don't think it's great. I'd take an Ellipse any day of the week. I'd take a Royal Oak gold any day of the week. I mean, when's the last time you saw someone walking around with a yellow gold dress watch on bracelet? Dress watch, meaning true, like thin, like the 1908. Day-Dates don't count. Royal Oaks don't count. This is it's like an old man's Calatrava. When's the last time you saw a young man walking around with a Calatrava on a yellow gold bracelet? No, they're on strap. So I don't understand where Rolex is seeing, or are they just so big and so successful that this doesn't even matter? And it's just like, oh, this is free news, whatever. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see the market demand, and I am really in the market. Okay. Next conversation, compliment. See, I try to be critical and then compliments. Sprite. It is such an unfortunate weak spot, and I should go put on my GMT because it is white gold and relevant to the conversation. It's white gold, right? It's, among other things, it's white gold, 18 karat white gold, right? It's just a fact. I'm not embarrassed to say it. In fact, I want you to know it. I'm kidding. I'm being facetious. I think that it's unfortunate that white gold is a weak spot in the Rolex catalog. That is just so unfair. I think that white gold's so amazing. Obviously, it's a little bit of a sleeper, relatively speaking, depending on the model. I think that my watch, the one that I have, was destined to be a failure just because it's literally, indiscernible from steel. So, I get that watch is a kind of a failure. It's kind of a dud. Even and I love that watch, and I think it's super cool that it's stealth. Even I totally wish it was a little bit less stealth, 100%. I get the credit for being stealth, but I'm actually itching, right, to have something like the yellow gold one that it's oh yeah, this is gold, and everyone knows it, Whatever. It's just it's a weakness in our human character, right? We just want a little bit of attention, even if we're on the shy side. Anyway, I love white gold. I think it should be the subject of more fanfare at Rolex. And it's not. The white gold Submariners were the first to begin trading under retail, I believe, which is a shame. The Hulks were never that desirable, and I think they're absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. And the Hulk, draw comparison, is easily discernible from stainless steel because it has that blue on blue, right? Whereas mine is not, and that kind of sucks. The successor to the Hulk, the Cookie Monster, whatever the hell you want to call it, because God forbid, no one just calls it the successor. No one just calls it the blue with the black. Everything has that freaking name. I'm on a rip. I think that is a shame. They're such great watches, and they're so beautiful. I mean, and it's an admission at this point that Rolex is just not really a sports watch manufacturer of luxury watches that could take a beating theoretically. And that's pretty much that's a quote. Rolex is no longer a manufacturer of sports watches. They're a manufacturer of luxury watches that could theoretically take a beating, but you won't give them one. That's kind of it, That's why I love those watches. And this one, this green Sprite, first of all, I love green. I love white gold. I love the fact that it's left-handed. I don't particularly love the green and black combo. I'd prefer 2 shades of green or something. But still, I think it's awesome. I think this is super cool. It's so easily discernible. I think it'll be a smash hit. Will it trade above retail forever? Who knows? Probably not. Will it trade above retail forever? Who knows? But also, who cares? I just think that it's great that Rolex did something interesting. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's the first ceramic dial. Cool. Should be pretty. I never looked at a Rolex dial and wished it was ceramic, but I mean, that's great. God bless him, right? It looks pretty. Anyway, who cares if it trades above retail forever? I'm not saying you should go and buy it above retail. I'm not an advocate or whatever. I don't really care what you do with your money, but I just like that they're giving some love to white gold because I really do think it's a cool metal, and I think it's underappreciated. And that's it. I mean, I have a vested interest in that as well. Not that I'm ever going to sell mine, but I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, like it and subscribe to the channel. If you want more watch content, a ton coming at you shortly. Go watch this video about why you should buy watches from Theo Harris.
Watches, particularly vintage watches, represent this intersection of history, of design, of engineering. Theo Harris is a family business. It always has been. And that's because we, my family, all share a passion for this remarkable intersection. For nearly a decade now, we have scoured the world from Oklahoma to Tokyo for some of the most interesting watches by some of the world's most revered manufacturers to share with our community. We handpick our collection. We look for quality and we look for taste. We choose watches that, for one reason or another, speak to us. We authenticate them, we service them so they're ready for decades of memories to come, and then we share them here with you. We support our clients. We believe in expedited and fully insured shipping so they never have to wait. We believe in stress-free returns in the off chance they change their mind. We believe in building relationships that last. Theo Harris is a family business. And we haven't just built a shop, we've built a community. So whether you're considering adding a vintage watch to your collection, a handmade strap to your life, or if you're just looking to talk watches, we're grateful that you've chosen us.